The world around us is ever-changing. We are facing development challenges on a global scale. Today, 41 million out of 57 million deaths are attributable to non-communicable diseases. In the Philippines, 5 out of 10 families were deprived of basic education. The Philippines also ranked third in the top 10 countries with the most natural disasters. Women participation in the labor force is less than half at 48%, while male participation is at 77%. The United Nations identified and adopted 17 Sustainable Development Goals or SDGs to address the challenges faced by economies, societies, and the environment. We at ATRAM support the UN and the SDGs by launching the ATRAM Philippine Sustainable Development and Growth Fund. The fund is designed to invest in Philippine companies that score high in terms of the integration of UN SDGs into their operations and strategy. Through this fund, we hope to encourage PSC-listed companies to integrate UN SDGs into their businesses. We must work together to make a world a better place. ATRAM Philippine Sustainable Development and Growth Fund. Invest in a sustainable future together. Invest to thrive. Invest together. For more information, visit www.atram.com.ph.
So, happy Thursday afternoon, everyone. Thank you very much for joining this week's special episode of ATRAM's webinar series. I'm Joe Marlacson, Head of Macroeconomics Research here at ATRAM, and I'll be your host for today. So this week's webinar is special because we have a guest. So we invited one of the companies that form part of the portfolio of ATRAM's Sustainable Development and Growth Fund. But before we introduce our guest company, let me tell you a little bit about sustainability and property. So as we enter the summer season, the headlines that are most relevant are the effects of climate change on global temperatures. So what does a hotter planet mean for investors? Well, we've been reading newspapers lately. Maynilad has announced water interruptions to ensure adequate water supply for 2023, which, by the way, is an El Nino year. So we are expected to have below normal rainfall during this phase of the cycle. And for us investors, the memory of the 2019 water crisis in Metro Manila and its impact on the operations of companies is still fresh. Inflation was also a big issue during the 1998 El Nino phenomenon, as agriculture production contracted during this period. Back then, agriculture had a more significant contribution to GDP, in contrast to its contribution today, which is a lot smaller. Which also means that under El Nino, we may need to import more food to keep prices stable. So with the oil spill in Mindoro, which happened a couple of weeks ago, we also may have to be concerned about our protein source coming from Philippine seas, which could have an inflationary impact as well if we do not contain the negative effects on local marine life quickly. And if left unresolved, this could also mean an impact on tourism sites in the area as well. I guess the point is that these risks to the environment and the health of our communities ultimately trickle down to the bottom line, whether it be in the financial statements of companies or their economic or brand values. This is why the SDG Fund tries to bring investor awareness and appreciation to factors that are beginning to get reflected in the share prices of companies. Apart from avoiding high risks, we also believe that in highlighting companies that do recognize these risk factors and are integrating them into their business strategies in order to make their business models more sustainable in the long run. In our current iteration of the SDG portfolio, we observe that property companies have taken the lead and stepped up efforts with respect to reducing their ecological footprints. They have also increased their transparency in sustainability reporting. So this afternoon, we present to you a very special ATRAM episode where you can listen to our analysts and representatives of the property sector to hear about their views on sustainability practices and how they can generate profit alongside planet, people, and purpose. If you have questions, you may send them as early as now by clicking on the Q&A button below your screen. So before we begin, I'd like to let you know that this session will be recorded and shared on all our social media platforms. If you'd like to be in the loop with the latest investment news and strategies, we also got you covered. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, ATRAM Studio. If you have any friends who you think would like this webinar but are unable to attend, a replay of this session will be posted on our official YouTube channel. Don't forget to click the notification bell so you can get notified on all your devices when new videos are uploaded. So also, please don't forget to visit our website, www.atram.com.ph, for more information about the funds that we offer. You may also scan the QR code to visit our official social media pages. So we would like this webinar to be as interactive as possible, so please don't hesitate to send your questions in the Q&A tab all throughout the webinar. We'll also be wrapping up with a quick feedback survey after the webinar, so we do hope that you can share your thoughts with us about our session today and how we can further improve our webinar series. Okay, with the preliminaries out of the way, allow me to introduce the members of our panel for today. So our guest company is Megaworld, and representing the company is Mr. Andy De La Cruz. Andy is the Investor Relations Head of Megaworld Corporation. He's also the Investor Relations Officer of the Real Estate Investment Trust arm of the company, MREIT. And before joining Megaworld, Andy previously held several roles as an equity analyst in Philippine Equity Partners, as institutional sales, and a senior analyst in Call Financial. He's currently a level 2 passer of the CFA program. Next is my colleague, Mix De La Cruz. Mix is ATRAM Sustainability Research Analyst and the portfolio manager of the SDG Fund. He has a management engineering degree from Ateneo with a minor in development management. Mix previously worked as an associate or consultant for Business for Sustainable Development, working for various companies on improving sustainability outcomes and operations. And rounding up this panel is one of ATRAM's analysts, Gail Gibe. Gail currently covers the property sector and including the REIT companies. She graduated a degree in economics, and prior to ATRAM, she was also a credit portfolio analyst in a multinational bank. So hello, everyone. How are you?
Hi, Jomar. Thank you.
Hi, Jomar. Hi, Andy. Hi, Gail.
Hello,
Hi,
hi
Gail.
everyone.
Hi, Gail.
Hello.
Good afternoon.
Afternoon.
Well, I'm glad that Andy can join Migs, Gail, and myself. So with that, let's hear from Migs more about the SDG Fund.
Hi, Jomar. Thank you. So again, good morning to all the attendees and especially to my fellow panelists. Maybe before we begin, maybe we can give some color into how exactly we run sustainability in action in ATRAM. No? So I'm the portfolio manager of ATRAM's SDG Fund, or Sustainable Development Goals. That's what we focus on. Right? So our whole idea is that companies that integrate sustainability in their operations by applying sustainability strategies and sustainability activities will pay off better in the long term. And so far, that thesis is holding true. So the fund, since its inception 2 years ago, has actually outperformed the PSCI by around 9.1%, which is huge considering the tough markets that we've seen last year. But again, it's only been a 2-year fund. Our focus really is on the long term, right? So when we engage with the companies, and this includes Megaworld, we engage with how they look at their business plan, how they look at the next generation, and we try to motivate businesses as well to allocate capital to integrate the SDGs. So our discussion with Megaworld, who is one of our highest scoring companies, based on the sustainability score that we create, will focus around how specifically in the property sector these integrations of sustainability and the SDGs are carried out. And we look forward and we're very excited to hear from Andy this afternoon. I'll turn the floor over now to Jomar.
Yeah, thanks, Migs. So, you know, I'm actually excited to hear more about Megaworld sustainability and business strategy. So, call on Andy to give us I guess a presentation on how Megaworld integrates sustainability into their strategy.
Thank you, Jomar. And hi, everyone. Thank you for your time for attending the webinar. Also, thank you to ATRAM as well for having us. So next slide, please. I'd like to start by giving everyone a brief walkthrough of Megaworld's history. We are a young company, so just turning 35 years next year. But even so, we paved the way for building townships across the country that really helped build the nation. In 1996, as you can see here on the left side, we launched our first ever township, Eastwood City, as I think everyone is familiar. In 1997, we first introduced the affordability model of flexible payment terms for pre-selling condominiums in the Philippines. So we're the first ones to offer these no down payment and really, staggered payments for pre-selling while the residential building is currently in construction. And we are the first to apply for PEZA accreditation, and that city was Eastwood. For that, Dr. Andrew Tan and the team sent teams to Bangalore, India, and even Silicon Valley to really study the booming IT sector in order to bring the knowledge back to the Philippines. Here you can also see several townships that we launched. We have McKinley Hill and Newport City in 2004 to 2005, McKinley West and Uptown Bonifacio in 2010 to 2011, Mactan Newtown Davao Park District Twin Lakes in 2012, Iloilo Business Park in 2013, and many more others. And going into the next slide, please. We launched Maple Grove in 2016, positioned really as a green city in the South. And in 2018, we launched our iTownship campaign to promote the future-ready townships. So included in this campaign really is being energy efficient by having solar-powered lamps, plans to use electric cars as our PUVs, because Megaworld does supply some PUVs in our township. And we have double glazed buildings for their finishings. This will also include, of course, smart technology that, for example, for our water conservation efforts is, we have smart meters that will alert us in case there are any leaks or electrical faults that will lead to wastage of electricity or water. Of course, this will include safety and security, among others. We also inaugurated our first school venture in partnership with LaSalle in Visayas. That's the Newtown School of Excellence at Mactan, Newtown, Cebu in 2018. In 2019 and 2020, we formalized our vision, mission, values statement with the forming of a sustainability team that will ensure the group, the whole Alliance Global Group, will be carbon neutral by 2035. In 2021, we listed MREIT, our REIT arm, and finally, we also launched our Township Analytics and Technology Lab that's really aimed at increasing the level of safety and security of Megaworld townships nationwide. So the Township Analytics and Technology Lab, or TAT-Lab for short, is the first ever data science lab spearheaded by a property development company in Asia. So this will be designed to develop, deploy, and improve machine learning models and AI, really aimed at increasing the level of safety and security of Megaworld townships nationwide. Megaworld will be using AI to introduce innovative programs, which include an advanced accident detection system that can detect road accidents and trigger a faster, more efficient incident response. So really, there are cameras and AI trained to detect, if this car is going at this pace, then it will trigger an alarm so that all the necessary officers are informed. There are responses as soon as possible. So that's for safety, also for the continuement of the road. There's less road blockage in the area. On to the next slide. So in just only a short span, as I said, we're only here for around 30 years. We now have 30 townships all over the Philippines, covering more than 5,100 hectares. We still have available land bank of more than 5,000 hectares that is sufficient to support our land development efforts for the next 15 to 20 years. Next slide, please. Our business model has always been focused on our township building expertise, with the first ever township built really in Eastwood City. So the land Eastwood City is in used to be an old textile mills factory, but as Megaworld bought the 11.5 hectare land and developed it, we launched Eastwood City in 1996, and it's our first live, work, play community ever. Now the 18.5 hectare Eastwood City has a total of 9,000 residential units across 23 buildings. We have 236,000 square meters of office leasable spaces across 11 PEZA accredited buildings, 64,000 square meters of retail GLA covering 3 malls and various retail spaces, and 138 room keys and function rooms with a max capacity of 500 seats. Next slide. We have 35,000 residents really in that area across our residential homes in Eastwood City. 64,000 persons are employed by the offices in that area, and together generate some 2.6 billion pesos per month in salaries that will help both their families and our economy. Retail malls in Eastwood City also provide easy access to necessities and wants of 30,500 persons daily. That is more than 11 million foot traffic in a year. Our hotels also serve 500 guests per day, or 180,000 guests in a year. All in all, Eastwood City has 130,000 persons enjoying the complete living experience of a township. Those are the stats that really drive our vision and why we remain committed to building the country and our business through our township model. Finally, on to the next slide and last slide for us today. Here we have our next township in focus, which is Maple Grove. We chose to show this because this is already our standard for future developments. So do expect that the minimum, what we have here will be in line. It will be present in all our developments in the future. So it is a 140 hectare property. That's a township development that's modern and eco-friendly. It has a 2 hectare rainwater park, which is designed to be a catchment basin for rainwater runoff, and a landscape drip irrigation system that will maximize the use of the harvested service water. So this is really aimed towards water management. It's 24,000 square meter sustainable mall will be equipped with exceptional light transmitting architectural systems that maximizes the use of natural sunlight while maintaining comfort, cooling conditions inside the building. This is to ensure also that we maximize the use of our energy. The mall will be designed with gray water recycling facilities, perceived cooling design for air conditioning, and provisions for roof solar panels. Of course, aside from this, it will have its own transport hub, as we always do. It will have a biking and jogging track, and a 6-lane Maple Grove Boulevard that traverses the township. Finally, it will have its own central material recovery facility for waste segregation and recycling of solid waste, and a sewage treatment plant for wastewater treatment. Again, all these will be replicated in all of our township developments in the future. And that's it for our short presentation. And thank you for listening. And I'd like to turn over the floor to Jomar Lacson for the panel portion.
Okay, thanks, Andy. Actually, since we haven't been out of the homes for past 2 years, I can just remember the last time I was in a township of Megaworld in Iloilo, and it was really amazing because the BPOs, they had about two BPO companies that were located at in I guess the first 2 buildings that they had. It's very wide, mid-size. So the impact of these townships when you put in the office is really substantial, particularly since the portfolio is broadly diversified across the country. So this is actually one of the things that we have. And uh, the yesterday we also visited one of the newest buildings of the company in Uptown, and there are also many features of sustainability that I mentioned to Andy of that building. That's not just about environment. I'm pretty sure that there are other social risk factors that have come to light, and this is being driven by the locators, and this is one of the things that I'm like super curious about. But I leave it to Migs and Gail to I guess work around the questions and try to extract as much value with the presence of Andy.
Thank you,
But for
John.
everybody, please feel free to ask questions. Super curious about everything, and I'm sure you guys are also super curious.
Thanks, Jomar. No, actually, so something that obviously as a property company, right, the one of the main activities are the actual development of the properties. And my question actually is, when you build a sustainable property like Arden Botanical Estate, for example, or Maple Grove Green, right? Or even for your future developments, your 5,000 hectares of developmentable land. Um, on top of the usual activities like feasibility studies, looking at the proper profitability metrics, what's your sort of framework for developing these properties, or even before or pre-development even of these companies? What other non-financial considerations do you guys have when you plan, and then when you actually carry out the development of these townships?
Thanks for that question, Mig. So it all boils down to our business model. When we ever conceptualize anything that we want to launch, whether it be residential, office, or retail, it will always boil down to our township model. So when we do choose to launch a township, it will always be in an area where there is proper infrastructure, or we can build that infrastructure for that area. It is going to be situated in a prime location that's easily accessible by either private or public transport. And with that, we'll always, we give the people the chance to own a good home in a master plan township, really. So the township will always at least be 40% open space. That's our commitment to everyone living in that area. And residential has always been our first project in any given township. So whether it be a horizontal project or a vertical development, that will always be our first project. Next is we will launch office buildings in the area. We create direct jobs in the BPO sector, as well as the indirect jobs that really support the industry. So all these buildings will always align with the standards set by certification bodies such as LEED, in order to build sustainable buildings, really. So with or without the certification, we make sure that we can at least have the option to get the certification down the road. Next to launch would be our malls. We offer entrepreneurs the chance to become our locators and expand their business. So our malls are designed that a big part of the mall is open space. There will be less requirements for air conditioning as we can expect. And these developments really support economic growth in the surrounding areas. Through our CSR efforts, we also empower and transform various communities in the area. In fact, I think the group, through the various developments that we already, had resulted in employment opportunities for about 2.5 million direct and indirect hires. So that's about 3% of Philippine population already. And we're such in a blessed position to be able to impact the Philippines in that respect. But in overall framework, the ESG framework that we're committed to, so we always commit to our sustainability statement. So whenever we do any kind of project, really for social, we commit to create inclusive growth for our stakeholders and the communities around us. So that's, of course, by providing equal access to resources and opportunities in order to promote shared prosperity and social harmony. For the environment, we always support the protection and conservation of natural habitats and ecosystem by gearing our development activities towards optimum land use, a reduced carbon footprint, efficient waste management, and all the likes. So I think to date, we've already protected more than 1,500 hectares of forests. For the economy, the third pillar that we look at is we really contribute to the country's economic thrust, really by pursuing innovation and technology, helping create efficient and progressive infrastructure, generating jobs and promoting worthwhile partnerships and collaborations within that community.
Thanks, Andy. Now that sounds very comprehensive. I think you have your E, S, and G covered
Yeah.
pretty well with your answer there, no? But I think one thing that I was very curious about, I just wanted to double click on, right? Because obviously the big value add, especially on the sustainability and more fundamental strategy standpoint, is the development of communities. Right? When you make your townships, there are so many stakeholders involved. There are the residential residents basically, or the office workers or the tenants, and obviously that includes also the surrounding environment.
That's right.
The pre-existing communities and the current infrastructure that exists. So I think my next question is mainly about the access to your townships, both on the level of the affordability of the products themselves and how the average person can use public infrastructure to go through or to the townships themselves. How do you make your products accessible, and how do you make the townships accessible to other folks? How do you integrate that infrastructure into what's already existing, right? Since transportation is such a big thing now, especially in Metro Manila. So maybe I'm curious to hear about that, Andy.
Yeah, great question, Migs. In terms of the first question, affordability, as mentioned this in my presentation, we are actually the first developer to give out the pre-leasing arrangement whereby the buyers of residential units, whether it be horizontal or vertical developments, are given 5 years to pay out a portion of their down payment. Right. For us, it's 60% over 5 years. It will vary according to developer, but that has afforded us, in terms of PPP, people, profit, and planet, that also afforded us to not only look after our stakeholders, where our buyers are locators in that area, but also on a business standpoint, that 60% will already be self-funding for that residential unit, for that residential building or that horizontal development already. So that's very easy for us to use internally generated funds for that building. And with that, because we have offices coming in, which can make use of the residential buildings in the area, these office locators, when we do have a mall, will spill over to the mall, right? These residential and office goers. So all of our stakeholders are taken into consideration when they do locate into that area. So that's for residential affordability. For our offices, of course, it's a matter of rental rates in the area. We've always been competitive, but I think one of the highest in the area, but only so because we provide them so much access to all of these services in the area. In terms of local communities across the area, so all of them can easily go in and out, right? For example, we built a township that's way outside Metro Manila. The first order of action for us is, of course, accessibility. So in terms of planning the township, we're already planning how we're going to bring in people into that area. So we will have transport hubs that right now are still gas guzzlers, but of course, we will transition them into electric vehicles in the near term or a medium term. So that's always part of the plan. And because we are building townships, we do have the biggest, our main focus is really mobility, right? In our townships. So if you look at Uptown Bonifacio or even any kind of townships, Dr. Tan has always been prideful, or at least very proud of the Uptown Bonifacio sidewalks, because he modeled it after Orchard Road in Singapore. He envisioned it to be in such a way, there are bustling street vendors, kiosks on the side, while having ample room for people to walk, bike, jog, So really, mobility is a main factor for us. If you go to Newport City, all of the hotels, developments there in that area are all interconnected. You don't have to step outside anymore. In the sidewalk, there are footbridges connecting all of these buildings. So really, that's in the core planning stage of our township. Of course, the roads, I think this isn't public knowledge, but Megaworld is the one building the roads. We're building the sidewalks. We're putting in the stoplights in the area, painting the pedestrian walks. So it's up to us to really, uplift those who live there by making sure that these are at least up to date and really technologically advanced. So as I said, one of the reasons we had the TAT lab for our township, there are cameras already that are really just analyzing vehicle movements in an area and to alert if there are any potential accidents that will happen. So all of these, live, which is the first pillar of our township, that's being attributed by the residential, work by offices, play by our malls in the area, retail areas. Of course, we have the learn factor there. We have several institutions, like in Mactan, Cebu, we had to launch our own school to also provide for that area. And of course, in line with this, because we're developing in that area, that will bring in several, of course, governmental bodies such as, police station, fire station, and even hospitals or medical clinics in the area. So really, it's really, for us, it's really, geared towards the betterment of the local community.
I think Gail has a question.
You mentioned a lot of your townships and how you would develop this. And one of the key steps, or one of your first steps, is to develop the residential area of the townships. And well, first of all, congratulations on your full year 2022 earnings. And in your 2022 targets, you were able to beat your launch and pre-sales targets. Can you tell us how you were able to achieve this?
Okay, so we always have innovations around our townships. So it's not going to be plain vanilla township launches here and there that we have residential, office, retail. So nothing like that. So we like to integrate the local culture per location into the theme of a specific township. That way, each township really will have its own identity and market. For example, our township in Pampanga, that used to be the factory of the Pasudeco factory, which apparently was a big heritage in that area. So we incorporated that into our township. That way, the Pampangans actually really liked that approach, and they were more welcoming to us because I think we initially launched something there that we did our initial studies, but it wasn't as as welcoming. It wasn't as welcome as when we did this innovation of really attuning it to the locality of that city. So aside from this, the business model of launching residential developments first is something that buyers really like. So we typically launch these in bare townships. So imagine really large parcels of lands where the first buyers will usually enjoy the maximum benefit from the location. So because residential is the first one we put up in an area, they can be promised that there will be an office there will be a retail mall there, hotel, and all everything, that slew of services that we promised the locators.
I see. So you really have a master plan in mind as soon as you launch a township.
Yeah. Always, yeah.
Actually, Annie, just wanted to insert there that innovation is such a big thing for us as a fund, the SDG fund. Right. So actually, when we look at the studies that we do on companies that really perform well, typically they really have an innovation and like a plan really for the future with regards to that. And we're such advocates of innovation as a part of sustainability. And we're glad to hear what Megaworld is doing with regards to that. And I just wanted to put that out there to share with the audience as well.
Yes. And so
Thank you, Mix. Yeah.
this, yeah, moving forward, how do you plan on sustaining your growth? What are you seeing for Meg? What can investors look forward to?
So for Meg, well, looking into this year, because unfortunately we're still in the recovery phase from our pre-pandemic numbers. We're still recovering. We're hoping to reach 2019 levels for our revenues, at least this year. The latest probably next year, but we're targeting already for this year. For our leasing revenues, we're seeing 20 billion already this year. That's coming from 12 billion from our office revenues last year. And then our malls, where we already removed our rent concession. So no more rent discounts coming from to our tenants starting January 2023. So expect that to already go back to 2019 numbers. For residential, we already expect it to at least hopefully reach also 2019 levels, because that is a function of construction activity. And as we book more of that, then we will be able to reach 2019 levels already. And for offices, we expect occupancy to remain largely stable this year. It could be there are several headwinds currently, of course, for the office sector. As we all know, more and more people are transitioning into a work from home setup, which of course has been affecting the office spaces. Anyone who says otherwise is either very lucky or isn't telling the whole truth. So for us, we've been feeling it, but we still somehow managed to improve our occupancy in 2022. We ended at 92% versus 90% 2021, because our office team really did the groundwork on getting all of these smaller ticket office takers. So SMEs, they are the largest growers in that area. So hoping to grow them furthermore into 2023. For our malls, of course, it's a story of reversion. And then, malls right now, we're doing 6% as of end 2022. Tenant sales, so we track our tenant sales, right? Tenant sales are already above 2019 levels by 6%. So with that, because we're also collecting by percent of sales, we hope to benefit from that coming into 2023. And maybe just an anecdote, food and beverage has been a big performer for us. And I think a larger part of our portfolio under our malls for tenants are food and beverage. I think 60%. That's including supermarkets as well.
I see. Okay, very interesting. And I believe Jomar has another question.
Yeah, I'll squeeze one in, Andy.
Domar, sure.
I was wondering if, since you guys are one of the if not the key office players in the property market, is whether the multinational locators, the tenants, are actually asking you guys to to buy renewable energy for the buildings if they make it a requirement. So I ask this in relation to the developments. We have an IPO recently that is trying to develop more renewable energy capacity for wind, solar, and we also have some deals that have happened on solar energy.
Yep.
So I was wondering whether on your end, from the demand side, you are also feeling that the requirement.
Yes, to a point. Not very material as of yet, but definitely some of these companies are already asking for it. So internally, we already pivoted and then really made our strategy so that in case this is the minimum standard for all of our office locators, we're prepared to do so. So we looked at our carbon emissions for 2019 at least, and then we have about 280,000 tons in carbon emissions, right? And the mission to at least fix that, 50% of that would be coming from both energy, going into renewable energy and energy management, right? So for renewable energy, currently our group, Megaworld, is 35% renewable energy for all our buildings. That's for offices, malls, and hotels. That's not including residential. So it's 35% already, which is already quite a big chunk, I would assume, compared to many buildings in the Philippines. So for all of these, because I think we already have 20 LEED certified buildings, right? So these buildings are already in the standard of these locators who want at least, you know, a portion of it to be renewable. That's at least the minimum requirement by them. So we have that going for us already. And also the move to hopefully in the future 100% renewable energy.
Oh, well, even the future, I think Gail still has a couple of questions.
Yes, just one final question for me. Given all your very exciting plans, does Megaworld take it as a priority to return to the main index of the PSE?
Good question, Gail. Well, of course, it's part of our priority. We feel we were removed largely due to the cyclicality of the property sector. And it just so happens that the pandemic hit the property sector more so than most. We are still recovering, as I said, to go back to pre-pandemic numbers, whereas some other business sectors are already way past their 2019 numbers. So unfortunately, we were largely out of favor in 2022. Also at a time when dollar was stronger and peso weaker. We booked 1.7 billion pesos of forex losses in 2022 because of our dollar denominated bonds. And that was one of the main reasons as well. So why our share price underperformed in 2022. As the dollar shoots up, our share price suffered. But really, going forward, we're already on track to go back to 2019 revenues this year or latest next year. We hope to also decrease our dollar exposure. So as the exchange rate gets better for Meg, of course, and our focus now really for ESG should help us crystallize some of the values that we have lost.
I see. Okay, very interesting and very exciting. Looking forward to seeing that.
Okay, thanks. Thanks, Gail. Thanks, Andy, Migs. So at this point, I can already see that we have a few questions on the question box. So we'd like to move on to tackling them. Let me move for the first one. Are the companies in the SDG fund, do they have sustainability reports submitted to third parties for verification? Maybe we can direct this to Migs.
Yeah, I think that's a question more for me and the SDG fund now. Actually, the fund itself, our coverage is 83 companies, 88 rather companies that are publicly listed, and we aim to have 100 this year because we try to expand and try to capture the whole market, right? So actually, almost 100 companies is coverage, a lot of coverage. It's more coverage than the other sustainability raters or ESG raters here in the Philippines have. So not everyone can still provide their sustainability report to third parties for verification, but we are confident in the industry's direction, and we're already seeing some the first few steps already especially from some auditing companies on being able to provide verification services for these sustainability reports. We do pride ourselves in reading through every word, every single syllable of the sustainability and annual reports of all the companies that we provide using our own framework. So that's just to answer that question.
Great. Second question is actually I guess for you, Andy. I know there's a requirement for this, but maybe you can take us through any plans to build the low cost for the social side of the market, low cost condominiums.
So around 20%. So because Megaworld is mostly for upper middle to high end developments, so that's about 80% of our launches. 20% of our launches is still under the low cost to middle, really economic development. So these are under our brands of Empire East, Empire Land, and SunTrust Properties. So we always do the usual mix is about 80% high end and then 20% to the lower end.
There's a question here on it looks a bit outside. Maybe we can tackle it from both Megaworld and from a property sector. So I'll ask Gail a little bit to maybe provide some inputs here. But what's the main risk to Megaworld from the banking turmoil in the US and in Europe?
From the
Well,
sorry,
the banking crisis that's happened in the US and in Europe. Is there any effect on you guys?
sorry, Jomar, can you repeat the
Okay, I
the
guess
effect
what's the
of
main risk to Megaworld from the banking turmoil in the
banking
US?
turmoil? Okay. Yeah. Well, for us, no. Of course, there's so many defaults going around, because of the banking turmoil. Thankfully, our developments are catered to 80% high end, whereas interest rates aren't really that sensitive to these buyers. So they aren't really sensitive to hikes in mortgage rates. When looking at our cancellation rates, because I think the buzzword for property developers amidst these turmoils, even the banking turmoil, would be cancellations of these residential purchases. So when we're looking at our data, we're still seeing the same cancellation rate as we had pre-pandemic. That's largely because we're collecting 60% over the down payment, right? So 60% of the property price over 5 years, which is more aggressive in terms of being able to afford it. So it's very expensive for the buyer to buy that. So we made it so that it still ensures affordability, but when it comes to us, that ensures that these buyers are typically the ones who are able to really purchase and have the capacity to to guard this investment that they have, even when any kind of crisis has come. So for us, it's 3 to 5% cancellation rates. 90% of our customers just pay by cash when upon turnover. So not really are into mortgage loans. So really nothing so far in terms for Megaworld in terms of the banking turmoil in the US and Europe. For the property sector, I think it would be largely the same. I think we're largely guarded against that. There are so few banks here that are at least exposed to that turmoil in the US and Europe. So essentially, it should be a non-use for us entirely for the property sector.
Yeah, I agree with Andy. For the overall property sector, the largest risk really is the cancellations. But on top of that, just to answer the question, since I also agree that their exposure in general, any developer's exposure, especially Megaworld, their exposure to the more high-end segments shields them from this risk. It helps the shielding. But just to answer the question also, another factor, another risk would be if the buyers would want to shore up liquidity, which then could trigger a selling of some assets. So that also can come in the form of cancellations.
Great. Annie, just a question. How much cash does Megaworld have right now in the balance sheet as of the last?
I think we have about 20 billion as of in 2022, something like that. Or
I was wondering whether
quite
you
a
guys,
lot, or 11 billion, if I'm not mistaken.
right? I was wondering whether you're actually benefiting already from the, I guess, higher interest rates if you're getting to reinvest some of that.
So for us, right, so definitely some of these would be because our pecking order would really be use the cash to our projects. So the pecking order would be to use cash, internally generated cash really to fund these projects, residential office development. So the capex for that would largely be coming from cash. And the next one would probably be debt. And in terms of that would be short term and then long term in terms of preference because of the higher interest rates right now. We do see some, because these money are either placed in very liquid investments, so either in banks. So very minor, but yes, Jomer. Yeah.
Okay, great.
So to answer your question, we had 27 billion as of end 2022. Yeah, more than 20 billion.
Yeah, I was thinking that companies that would have high levels of cash should be benefiting at under the current environment wherein we have high interest rates. Maybe I can take in another question. How do you address the pain points for your offices in your townships? I guess this is where we have one of the SDGs that we try to incorporate our framework is actually innovation, R&D. But maybe from your perspective, how do you, I guess, gather the pain points that really matter and what do you do about them?
Okay, so for example, for our just talking some of our older buildings, there of course pain points would be coming from, because it's an older building, we need to the lifts couldn't be as as fast as what we're seeing in modern developments, or even those likes, right? So all in all, we take these into account and really redevelop and provide the funds for them to be able to at least implement those tools into that building. So whether it be moving into because paper collection or paper notices can sometimes be very 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 delayed or very troublesome for many. I think right now we're mostly paperless transactions for everything. That's also in line because we had the COVID pandemic. So that's listening to our tenants. Of course, refurbishing and renovating key areas for them to use, and of course to increase the attractability of these buildings to newer tenants that may want to lease office spaces in that area. And when we have a new tenant that's coming in, that they have specific requirements for a space, we usually do have some sort of agreements. We're very flexible to onboard them. We can, for example, the building here in JPM, as you mentioned, that building is very beautiful, but that was really in close connection, or we were in close contact with JPM in terms of the design of that building. If I recall the story correctly, they had one column in the ground floor in the lobby area. That was, they didn't want the column there in the middle of the lobby area because they wanted to be very open, to be very welcoming, and so the atmosphere is really nice. So we had to redesign the whole engineering of the building just to remove that column. So that's how far we usually go to please our tenants for our Megaworld offices.
It looks like a hotel actually going inside.
Yeah.
I guess since we're talking about innovation, for you, Migs, what's your experience or with the fund with respect to innovation? How does it explain the returns? What's the track record investing for these sustainable companies? I mean, what are the factors that you've discovered so far with the fund?
Yeah, actually, so a lot of the outperformance that we see can be attributed. So maybe just to add, no, we score companies based on the SDGs. So you have different indicators for all the 17 SDGs, and then we score them based on that. And one of them is SDG on innovation. A lot of the returns are explained by that, right? So companies that spend on R&D, on improving their own process improvement, or have shown to have a culture of innovation and development in their company, do outperform. So Megaworld actually is one of the good scorers in that regard. I mean, I also want to add other factors like employment, right? So companies that typically grow their employee base are also associated with the growth of the company and value creation. So they're also included. A lot of the companies with improvements in carbon and carbon commitments actually do have some correlation with the return that we've seen. And this is not insignificant. The fund, as I mentioned earlier, was a big outperformer the past 2 years. It does change every now and then, especially last year with how volatile the markets were. But still within our risk expectation. We are a fund, after all, that wants to create alpha over the long term, and that comes with the ebbs and flows of the market. And we're happy to say that these companies that invest in innovation, these companies that invest in their employees, including Megaworld, have been big contributors to the fund's return so far. And we hope to be able to score and include more winners in the fund in the future.
Great. Speaking of innovation, actually was a bit impressed that you guys are actually using AI already for some areas. And we should give you already, this is more of a comment on that AI itself is becoming an important topic in the US, given the developments such as ChatGPT.
Yep.
Which I think is one of the issues that will be affecting our outsourced businesses or the industry, the BPOs. So having AI tasting it a bit, I guess, call it that way, what will allow you to appreciate where the technology is headed, where it will flow, and I guess to be able to flank that movement, to get ahead of it rather than be behind it.
Yeah.
So I guess that's all the time we have for questions. But before we end, maybe we can have some parting words from Andy, from Migs, and from Gail.
Well, from my side, thank you so much for listening. We're very happy to actually be in this webinar and really thankful to be recognized for our sustainability efforts. As I discussed earlier today, the AGI group actually made a formal sustainability team called Sustain Agility. And really the main focus of that is spearheading our sustainability plans towards the future. 2035 will be carbon neutral. Of course, that's the number there, but of course we want to try and always beat that, as we always had. We always like to at least strive for the better and surprise positively this time. And thank you. That's all from me.
Yeah, I also wanted to say thank you. I agree with the importance of sustainability. So it's very important that we consider this in our investment decisions. Of course, we would want growth long term, not just short term. That's all for me.
Thank you, Andy, for agreeing to be part of the call and to be able to share what I'd consider a very, very comprehensive set of sustainability activities. And as an SDG fund, we really look for catalysts like what you're doing here in Megaworld. And and this is me kind of inserting the fund also to the audience. Also, we'd love to hear your thoughts, and we love your support as well, to be able to help these companies allocate the capital, to be able to involve themselves in more sustainability activities. That's it for me, and thank you once again, Andy, and to Gail and to Jomar for being part of this webinar. Thank you, everyone.
Andy, yeah, I like the sustain agility. There's the pun on the AGI part, right? That's pretty cool.
I'd like, there's so many things we are planning to do in the next 2 years. Unfortunately, I can't share yet because those are in the planning stage, but these locators will continue to enjoy them in the next time.
But Andy, you got to stay for a while. We have a special segment here. So I'm going to call our president and CEO, Mr. Philip Hagedorn. Hi, Phil.
Hi, good afternoon, everybody. Good afternoon, Andy.
Hi, Philip. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us today. Really an informative webinar, and happy to see that sustainability is alive and kicking. I think, over the last couple of years with turmoil that we've seen, a lot of folks have talked down ESG and sustainability, saying maybe it's not the way to go. And honestly, there's nothing more wrong than that, I think. When we launched our fund in February of 2021, we had a purpose. The purpose was really to focus on companies and how they are reacting towards the environment, towards the people around them, and the world around them, and making a better place. Traditionally, investors analyze companies by just looking at numbers, right?
Yep.
Looking at the financials. And we didn't do that. We took another tack. And I think the proof is in the pudding. After more than 2 years, we just passed our anniversary a few weeks ago. And as of 2 days ago, we're outperforming the PSEI by 10%. As a matter of fact, it's a positive return of 10% versus the PSEI, which is almost at exactly the same place it was in 2021, last Tuesday. So the proof is there that responsible companies that are practicing sustainability certainly add value, and we believe will continue to do so for the long run. And in this moment, we'd like to present Megaworld, which is a member, obviously, of the Alliance Global Group, as one of ATRAM's sustainability champions. Every year, we rate companies that we score. I think we're up to 88 companies that we're scoring today. And we have 3 categories: wellness, progress, and fairness. And Megaworld is our progress champion. So Andy, on behalf of ATRAM and the SDG Fund team, led by our SDG head, sustainability head Jomar, and the portfolio manager Migs, we want to congratulate Megaworld for this commitment to carbon neutrality, for the improvements in waste management that you've done, and for scoring highest in progress, which for a property company is very commendable. So congratulations, and we look forward to more positive, sustainable actions from Megaworld, AGI, and the AG, what's it? AG
Sustainability.
Sustainability team of,
Yes.
of Dr. Tan. So thank you very much and congratulations.
Thank you, Philip. And
Congratulations,
thank you,
Andy.
ATRAM team, Jomar, Migs, and Jenny.
Okay.
Jomar, I'll pass this back to you to close. Thank you, everybody. Good afternoon.
Thank
Thanks,
you, Philip.
Phil. Thanks. So, by the launch of the SDG Fund 2 years ago, ATRAM's the top independent asset manager in the Philippines has shown its support for the UN SDGs, notwithstanding difficult socioeconomic circumstances, turbulent markets. The ATRAM Philippine Sustainable Development Growth has consistently outperformed the PSEI index since its inception. Okay, so I guess once again, thank you, Andy, Phil, Migs, and Gail. Of course, thank you to our audience. We really appreciate you taking your time to join us today. So now, did you know that for as low as 1,000 pesos, you can already jumpstart your investment journey? So please stay tuned to learn more.
Good day. If you are interested in investing with ATRAM, the leading independent asset and wealth management company in the Philippines, please visit our website, www.atram.com.ph. We have all the details you would need to know about our funds. If you would like to start investing, click Invest Now. For further assistance and account opening, you may email our client services team. If you have more questions, visit the website's frequently asked questions page or ATRAM Academy page. We hope this helps. Thank you.
Just starting out in this world of finance and investments, and you'd like to be in the loop with the latest investment news and strategies, we have some wonderful resources to get you started. So subscribe to our YouTube channel, ATRAM Studio. If you have any friends who you think would love to view today's session again, a replay of this session will be posted on our official YouTube channel. Don't forget to click that notification bell so you get notified on all your devices when new videos are uploaded. Also, please don't forget to visit our website, www.atram.com.ph for more information about all the funds that we offer. You may also scan the QR code to visit our official social media pages. And lastly, please answer the survey at the end of this webinar. We'd love to know your thoughts on the topic. So on behalf of everyone at ATRAM, thank you so much for tuning in. We wish you and your loved ones continued health and safety. Have a great day.